What if I told you that a house could pay for itself? Not a mansion, not a multi-unit apartment complex, not some 30-year-old property you bought when prices were sane. A tiny house, under 400 square feet, that you could own, fully paid off, while it quietly makes you money every single month. I know how that sounds. I know. But here's what's actually happening in 2026. Thousands of people across the country have figured out that a tiny house, used the right way, is not just a place to live. It is a cash-flowing asset, a side business, sometimes a full-time income. Today I'm going to break down exactly how that works. The real numbers, the 3 strategies people are using, the mistakes that wipe out your profits, and, at the end, the one tip that separates the people who actually make this work from the ones who lose money. Stay with me. This one's worth your time. If real estate, passive income, or just finding smarter ways to own things without being buried in debt is your kind of content, hit that subscribe button right now and tap the notification bell. This channel is dedicated to real information, real numbers, and no fluff. And before I forget, drop a comment right now. Tell me, I'm in. Just those 2 words. It helps the algorithm and tells me you're serious about building something. Let's get into it. Let me start with the problem, because that's what makes the opportunity so obvious. The median price of a new single-family home in the United States right now sits at $428,600. That is not a typo. That is what a house costs in 2026 for the average American household. That number translates to a monthly mortgage payment somewhere between $2,400 and $3,200, depending on your down payment and credit score. Before maintenance, before insurance, before property taxes, before anything else. That is a number that breaks people financially. That is the number that's been pushing homeownership rates down and rental demand through the roof. Now here's where it gets interesting. The average well-built tiny house in 2026 costs between $35,000 and $95,000. There are quality builds under $75,000. Prefab models delivered to your property for even less. And at the top of the market, a fully custom, premium tiny house runs around $119,000 to $160,000. So the question immediately becomes, if a tiny house costs a fraction of a traditional home, what happens when you use it to generate income instead of just occupying it? The answer is what this whole video is about. Because according to real 2026 data, the average U.S. Airbnb host earns between $25,000 and $60,000 in gross annual revenue per property. The top performers? $80,000 to $200,000 per property per year. And tiny houses, because of their uniqueness, their charm, their compact, cozy energy, consistently earn higher occupancy rates than standard vacation rentals. Unique stays, including tiny homes, tree houses, and converted spaces, command premium pricing and book faster than ordinary listings. That's not a feeling. That's data from AirDNA, which tracks millions of Airbnb listings globally. The math is starting to look interesting. Let's break down exactly how it works. There are 3 primary ways people are using tiny houses to generate income in 2026. Each one has a different risk profile, different earning potential, and different lifestyle implications. I'm going to walk you through all 3, honestly. Strategy 1, short-term rental, Airbnb/VRBO, 330 to 515. This is the highest earning strategy, and it's where most people start. Here's how it works. You purchase or build a tiny house. You place it on land, either land you own, land you rent, or a short-term rental-friendly community. You list it on Airbnb, VRBO, or both. And guests book it by the night for weekend getaways, retreats, or unique experiences. Let me give you a concrete example to make this real. Say you purchase a quality tiny house for $80,000. You place it near a lake, a national park, or a tourist destination. You list at $150 per night, which is conservative for a well-designed, well-photographed tiny home in a scenic location. At a 73% occupancy rate, which is the median Airbnb occupancy for short-term rentals in competitive markets, you're booking roughly 22 nights a month. $150 times 22 nights equals $3,300 gross per month. $39,600 per year. Now deduct expenses. Cleaning fees typically run $80 to $120 per turn. Airbnb takes a 3% host fee. Utilities, maintenance, and insurance might run $400 to $600 a month on a tiny house. Realistic net, after all expenses, somewhere between $1,800 and $2,400 per month, or $21,600 to $28,800 per year, on an $80,000 investment. That's a payback period of 3 to 4 years. And then, every dollar after that is pure return. In high-demand markets, think Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Sedona, Arizona, the Texas Hill Country, the numbers get better. A well-designed, tiny home in Gatlinburg averages over $65,000 per year in gross revenue. There are documented cases of tiny house Airbnb operations generating $550,000 per year across multiple units in a single property. Now, I have to be honest with you here. Those top numbers are outliers. They require exceptional location, exceptional design, consistent management, and strong marketing. But even the conservative numbers, $1,800 to $2,400 per month net on an $80,000 asset, are extraordinarily strong compared to almost any other investment you could make. For context, a high-yield savings account in 2026 earns around 4.5%. On $80,000, that's $3,600 per year. Your tiny house Airbnb is earning that in 2 months. Strategy 2. Long-term rental/ado, 5:15 to 7 o'clock. Strategy 2 is slower, steadier, and lower maintenance. And honestly, for a lot of people, this is the smarter play. This is the ADU model, accessory dwelling unit. You place a tiny house on your own property, behind or beside your main home. You rent it to a long-term tenant. Monthly income, 1 tenant. Far fewer turnovers than Airbnb. The data on this is compelling. In 2026, ADU rental income in the U.S. ranges from $1,200 to $4,000 per month, depending on location. Properties with a permitted ADU see their total home value increase by 20 to 35% before a single dollar of rent is collected. Here's a rule of thumb appraisers actually use. A well-built ADU adds roughly 100 times its monthly rental value to your property's appraised value. An ADU renting for $1,500 a month may add $150,000 to your home's assessed value. On a build that cost $100,000, that is near full cost recovery in the appraisal alone. Long-term rental ADUs in competitive markets deliver 8 to 12% annual ROI when you combine rental income with property appreciation. Payback periods typically run 5 to 10 years, a decade-long play, not a short game. But at the end of that decade, you own an asset that's been generating income the entire time and has increased the value of your primary property. California alone issued over 20,000 ADU permits in 2024, and that number is growing in 2026. The ADU movement is not a trend. It is a structural response to a housing shortage that isn't going away. Strategy 3. Live in one, rent the other, 7 to 8:30. Strategy 3 is the one I find most personally fascinating. You buy or build 2 tiny houses, or 1 tiny house as an ADU next to a larger home, and you live in one while renting the other. Your rental income from a second unit offsets, or entirely eliminates, your own housing costs. This is called house hacking, and tiny houses are arguably the best vehicle for it. Here's why. Traditional house hacking, buying a duplex and renting one side, requires you qualify for a $400,000 mortgage. A tiny house hack might cost you $60,000 to $100,000 total. The barrier to entry is dramatically lower. The risk is dramatically lower. And the lifestyle? You own your home. You have a neighbor who pays your mortgage. You're building equity. At the high end, if your tenant is paying $1,500 to $2,000 per month and your total tiny house payment, including land costs, is $800 per month, you're not just covering your housing costs. You're profiting from living somewhere. That's the quiet revolution happening right now that most people aren't paying attention to. Now, I told you I'd give you the honest version, and here it is. Tiny house income is real, but it's not automatic. There are 4 ways people blow it, and I want to walk you through all of them. Mistake number 1, ignoring zoning laws. This is the one that kills people the most. Not every piece of land allows a tiny house. Not every city allows short-term rentals. Some cities, Los Angeles is a big one. Do not permit Airbnb-style rentals in ADUs at all. They must be rented for 30 days or longer. Before you buy a tiny house, before you buy land, before you spend $1, research your local zoning codes and STR ordinances. A phone call to your city's planning department costs nothing. Building an Airbnb tiny house in a zone that doesn't allow it could cost you everything. Mistake number 2, underestimating real costs. Marketing materials for tiny houses and ADUs consistently lowball the numbers. Add 25 to 40% to any base construction quote you receive. Site prep, utility hookups, permits, inspections, and landscaping are frequently not included. A project quoted at $80,000 often finishes closer to $110,000 to $120,000. Run your numbers on the real cost, not the brochure cost. Otherwise, your payback period isn't 4 years, it's 7. Mistake number 3, assuming 100% occupancy. Any financial model that assumes your tiny house Airbnb is booked every single night is a fantasy. Build your projections on 65% to 75% occupancy for short-term rental and 90% to 95% for long-term rental. That's the honest working assumption. Mistake number 4, neglecting the guest experience. On Airbnb especially, your reviews are your business. A 4.9 star rating gets algorithmic boosts and commands premium pricing. A 4.2 gets buried. Invest in professional photography. Invest in a great welcome experience. Invest in responsive communication. The difference between a 4.2 and a 4.9 is the difference between a booked calendar and an empty one. Now, I promised you the single most important tip. The one that separates the people who actually make this work. Here it is. Here's the thing nobody tells you when they show you the income numbers. The tiny house isn't the investment. The location is the investment. I want to say that again because it's important. The tiny house is just a structure. It is a portable, movable, 300 square foot box. What makes it earn $150 a night instead of $60 a night? What makes it book 22 days a month instead of 8? Is where it sits. The highest earning tiny house Arabs in 2026 share one thing. They are within driving distance of a major population center and near a natural attraction. A lake, a hiking trail, a wine country, a music city, a beach, something that gives a guest a reason to escape their regular life. Isaac, the Airbnb host in Waco, Texas, who built a $550,000 a year short-term rental business, didn't succeed because his tiny houses were the most beautiful in the world. He succeeded because Waco sits within a 2-hour drive of Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, a combined population of over 15 million people. He was within reach of 15 million potential guests, and he marketed directly to them. That's the strategy. Find your 15 million. Find a market of people who need to get away on weekends. Find a gap between where they live and where they want to be, and put your tiny house in that gap. The builders and designers, they matter. The furniture matters. The photography matters. But location matters more than all of them combined. So before you fall in love with a floor plan or get excited about a price point, spend time on Google Maps. Find the national parks, the lakes, the hill countries, the wine regions within 2 hours of major cities. Find a land that's affordable in those corridors. That is where your tiny house business begins. Get the location right, and the numbers almost take care of themselves. So let's bring this full circle. A well-placed, well-designed, tiny house, used as a short-term rental, can generate $21,000 to $45,000 in net income per year on a total investment of $80,000 to $120,000. An ADU tiny house placed on your own property can add 20 to 35% to your home's value while generating $1,200 to $4,000 per month in steady rental income. A house hack tiny house setup can eliminate your personal housing costs entirely, turning what most people treat as their biggest expense into an income source. None of this is a get-rich-quick scheme. None of it is guaranteed. It takes research, smart location decisions, solid design, honest financial planning, and real effort to manage guests or tenants well. But the opportunity is real. The data is there, and the barrier to entry, compared to traditional real estate investing, is genuinely lower than it has ever been. If this opened your mind today, like this video, it helps more people find it. Subscribe if you want more honest, research-backed content on smart housing, side income, and alternative living every week. And drop your question in the comments. I read every single one and reply as much as I can. You got this. I'll see you in the next one.